Hello, Yawning Angel here, and welcome to my 100th video. Who would have thought? 100 videos. So in order to celebrate this milestone, I thought it would be fun to ask some of my YouTube friends to help me out. Yes, this lot of amazing people who help make the community so wonderful have all jumped in to lend a hand. Thanks, folks. So given that the vast majority of my videos are all about programming, you may have seen a few of them, I thought I'd ask my YouTube friends a programming related question. And that question was, if you could write a program on any retro system, what system would that be and what would the program do? They have all answered in their own unique way, and in this video I'm going to be sharing their answers with you, which is pretty cool. So without further ado, and you know how this works, let's grab a brew and dive on in. First up, we have the amazing Ross from the YouTube channel Goldfish on Games.
As someone who's made games for some of the retro machines, the platform that I really would like to work for, well, I think it's a bit obvious. It's the Amiga. And what game would I have to do? Well, I think that's also quite obvious. It would have to be Atoms. As Atoms started off on the Amiga, it's that version that I played in the past that I just absolutely loved, and then ended up trying to make my own version for every other machine that I've ever touched. And with the growth in physical releases of Amiga games at the moment, this would be the perfect time to do it. But the real question is, what language to do it in? As we have Amos, Blitz Basics, just go pure C, or even the more insane version, let's go with Assembler. And I'm still not sure which route to go. I know C is where I'm most comfortable, but I've also seen how quickly and how good people have managed to make stuff with Amos and Blitz Basics. And I've also got to ask myself, should I target the AGA hardware? Should I try and make the most advanced thing possible? And I just don't know. And it's these questions that keep holding me back. But at some point, who knows? I might break through and actually try it.
Now that's a nice idea. Personally, I'd go down the AGA route, and for a language, because I'm biased, I'll go with Amos. But I'm a firm believer in playing to your strengths, so maybe go with C? Whatever happens, thanks Goldfish, I really look forward to seeing this take shape. No pressure. Next up we have Matt from the channel Tech Made Easy. Matt does some amazing hardware videos, so I'm intrigued to see what he comes up with for my programming question.
Matt here from the channel TME Retro. Keith has inexplicably asked me, a purely hardware-based YouTuber, to offer my thoughts on what program I would like to see on a retro system and which system I'd like to see it on. Now, as a purely hardware-focused nerd with no impetus for programming at all, or for actually using the systems I repair, I will cop out and say the program I would get the most benefit from would be some form of database for tracking the progress of my various YouTube projects. This program would replace the often ignored and overlooked whiteboard in my office and would give me a fighting chance of remembering what on earth I had planned for the piles of retro hardware currently residing in my garage. In terms of the system, well, take your pick. I'm not exactly spoiled for choice. But if I'm pushed, I would suggest the Commodore 64 is where it's at, not least because it's a machine I'm quite familiar with and hence am more likely to be able to keep running for the foreseeable, but also because I remember fondly my dad actually using this platform for actual productivity type stuff and not just games. I've got no idea what Keith is planning to do with this information, but worst case is that he's going to moan at me that I've completely missed the point and this footage won't see the light of day. Keith, back to you.
I love any software that helps you organise things and give you an effective workflow, but it has to do exactly what you want it to do, otherwise it becomes a bit of a white elephant. A simple database tracking application program should be easy enough to create, and I'll probably target one of those iMacs running OS 9, which will give you a kind of modern system but still be retro. Give it a try, it could work. In a break from retro computing YouTubers, I asked my buddy Chris in America, who does the wonderful channel Is It Any Good? It's all about snacks and stuff, check it out, if he'd like to be part of this, and he said yes. So this is what he's come up with in terms of a program. He's in Phoenix, you know.
You know, when Yawning Angel asked me, hey, what sort of thing would you program on some old hardware? Some sort of game, some kind of software, something productivity-wise? what would you make? And I thought about it and I remembered I had an idea for a game. In fact, I remember it just like it was yesterday. So I came up with a video game, but not just any video game, obviously. I thought I'd tie it into, the kind of stuff we do around here. We like the hot sauce, we like the spicy, we like the heat. So I came up with the game Hothead, where you play a hothead. You're trying to collect as many points as you can, picking up different types of hot sauces. We've got mild, we've got a medium, we've even got a spicy. Ooh. Hotter you go, the more points you get. However, you don't want to blow your top, which could happen. So you have a chance to sort of cool down your heat level with either a little bit of water or even better, a bit of sour cream. You even have a chance at the occasional magical pepper that will really boost that up, but you risk a chance of blowing your top that much faster. And really, you're just going for a high score. How long can you last before you melt down? So yeah, that's my game, Hothead. Coming soon to stores near you on cassette, floppy disk, and maybe even Laserdisc, because they're the future. Yeah, I think it would have gone a little something like that. Congratulations, Johnny Angel, on 100 videos, man. That ain't nothing. But now if you'll excuse me, I've got a date with the Reaper.
Oh my word, Chris, that is an amazing concept and so doable on pretty much any retro system. I might even have a stab at doing that in Amos. Actually, I might have a word with Rob Smith Dev and see if he could come up with something like that in Amos. Whatever happens, this could see the light of day and would look fantastic. Thanks for sharing, Chris, and keep up the great work on your channel. Next up is Seb, who makes some amazing videos about games on retro systems from back in the day. And Seb is sharing his idea about some sort of music management system?
Being the elite gamer I was back in my youth, and obviously now, I didn't have the time or the inclination to program anything on my ZX Spectrum myself. Sure, I tried some magazine type-ins on a rainy weekend from time to time, but my short attention span always let me down. I had two passions in life from the age of around 10 and upwards, and still probably do so now. Gaming and music. Although not playing due to the short attention span. Top of the Pops was my religion. Thursdays at 7:30 p.m. or whatever time it was on. The big telly was mine. Parents had to endure music that I liked, and it was awesome. So why didn't my two big passions come together? I wanted a decent music management game on my Specky. Now there were two options. Virgin Games 1984 offering The Biz, which although detailed was just a basic driven text only affair, which was far too stuffy for my teenage needs, and although it is pretty good, it didn't really work for me. And then there was this, Rockstar Ate My Hamster. And this was almost it. It had the graphics and the fun element of creating songs, but to be honest, there was bugger all to do in it. I mean, gig, release, gig, band member dies, release, gig. And pretty much like this segment, this got boring pretty quickly. What I really wanted was a game where you could be in a band, make an album, release some hit singles with the ultimate aim of becoming Top of the Pops. All with the graphical flair of Rockstar and with the detail of The Biz. And if I was up to it, that is what I would have created back then, and obviously it would have sold by the millions, and I'd be making YouTube videos from my beach-fronted villa in Mallorca. Oh yes.
Rockstar Ate My Hamsters was one of my favourite games on the Amiga back in the day. But see where you're coming from with this, Seb. Some sort of music management system that kind of crossed the bridge between strategy and fun would definitely be a hit. And I'm surprised that nobody's done it in this day and age. Sure as hell would make a change from all those platform games. Also, Seb, it's nice to see somebody else who has a guitar and isn't quite as proficient with it as maybe they'd like to be. Timberwolf is next, and he's taking a look at what era he'd like to do this challenge in. Looks like this is a PC bit.
Oh, what programming era would I love to go back to? Well, I think it would be what I loosely call the clock doubled 486 era. And that's programming, largely in C, maybe a little bit of assembler. The reason for that is it's not where I got my start in programming. That was writing BASIC on 286s, but this was the era where everything felt possible, but also within reach. You could play a game like this on your PC and then read a book like the old Michael Abrash tome, which would tell you this is how you draw polygon graphics, this is how you do texture mapping. It all felt like it's something that with enough time, you as an individual could do. And it's between those kind of 2 points at which, you had 16-bit assembly and you had to really crank the performance and it was really difficult to get stuff working on a PC. And this later era where it's like you have all this stuff, but it's like DirectX, you've got to get context, you've got to work with the framework, you've got to understand all this stuff. And this was like, hey, you've got a 486, it feels really powerful at the time, you just write to screen memory and boom, you're off, you're going. And I liked that immediacy with C. It gave you the immediacy to shoot yourself completely in the foot if you wanted. But that's something that I kind of miss, that era of, it was very immediate programming. You had to still know a lot about what you were doing in terms of structuring programs, in terms of how they worked. You had to be still a bit of a performance optimization wizard, and I kind of miss that in the web era, don't we all? So yeah, that's kind of where I'd go back to. That's my retro programming happy place, is for programming in C on a clock doubled or clock tripled 486. And yeah, I'd absolutely write a driving game. I did that back in the day. I'd still do it now.
Very nice. The 486 era was an era that passed me by because I was still stuck with my Amiga A1200, and then I made a jump over to the Mac platform, so I missed all that 486 goodness. Although, looking at some of the stuff now, I could be tempted to dip my toe in that murky pool of water. The problem is, where would I put 486 kit in this room? Brace yourself, because next up we have a contribution from the amazing WhatHoSnorkers. This could be quite the ride.
Hi, Yawning Angel. WhatHoSnorkers here. So if I could write a game on any system and anything I like, well, it's going to be the ZX Spectrum. It's going to be mostly in BASIC. When I was at sixth form, I did A-level medieval history. And my ZX Spectrum Plus 2 at that point was on its last legs. The data recorder was broken, so you couldn't actually load games on it. But you could still program in BASIC. You couldn't save them, but you could type them in. So I was studying medieval history, and I got into the history of the Hohenstaufen. The Hohenstaufen were a German dynasty of ginger people who started out in the 12th century and became king of Germany and then often invaded Italy. And the most famous one of them all was Frederick Barbarossa, so called because he had a ginger beard. And Barbarossa had to consolidate his power in Germany and often had to make various expeditions to Italy, hoping to get crowned as emperor, and often fighting the Pope. And the game would follow you as you made these expeditions to Italy, fighting the Lombards and the Tuscans, overthrowing the Pope, getting in power, and trying to, get on with things. And it'll follow you through your life. And eventually, as an old man, he went on crusade, the Third Crusade. And unfortunately, he drowned on the way. This will be covered in the game as well. He'd go on crusade. How brilliant that would be. But even though he died, it wasn't over. He married his son, Henry, to the heir of the Kingdom of Sicily. And then eventually, his grandson, Frederick II, became not only king of Sicily, but also the emperor. And he, shall we say, was a controversial character. The game would cover him as well, because he was king of Sicily. He was also the emperor. And the Pope wanted him to go on crusade. He was a bit busy. Things kept happening. Pope got a bit cross. And eventually, he went on crusade after he got excommunicated. Went to the Holy Land, became king of Jerusalem. He got Jerusalem back, but he didn't do it by fighting. Oh no, he cut a deal. Imagine that in BASIC. All the stuff you would do. It's quite simple. You put it all in, add a few beeps and bipes, maybe have the beards change colours as you get older, organise marriage alliances. How fantastic would that be? You can do it all in 48K. Turn-based. Beautiful. Different shields like in Lords of Midnight. Oh, I can imagine it. All that lovely beards and the fighting and the popes. Always popes. Having your own pope, having anti-popes, anti-emperors, crusades, murder, drowning in rivers. I'll have to get on with that at some point. I've got the B-roll footage for it. Went to Sicily and saw the tomb of Frederick II. Anyway, that's enough of me wittering on. Good luck with the rest of the video, Keith.
Now that I want to see you develop, Snorkers. I really want to see that happen. Not maybe so much for the program, but just so I can see what characters you come up with in video for that. It looks phenomenal. I always enjoyed Lords of Midnight back in the day, and I keep on meaning to go back to it, but I haven't. Maybe because of the lack of popes in the game? Who knows? The concept looks amazing, James. I want to see you develop it. Thanks ever so much for sharing this. Network gaming isn't something you think about when talking about retro systems, but John from the channel Retrobytes has an interesting idea.
Hi everyone, I'm John from Retrobytes. Hopefully you recognise the dining room. You wouldn't recognise me because I don't appear on camera. Now, Keith's asked a number of us who are on the same Discord as him, would we do something where we talk about something we'd like to develop for a retro system? And I'm almost going to answer the question as phrased, sorry Keith, in that I would like to develop something on a modern system that you use on retro systems. Yeah, I want to create a MUD, a multi-user dungeon. If you're not familiar, it's one of the first online role-playing system type things. I think it was a text adventure game, but there's more than one person playing it at once, and what you do in the world affects other people. So if you pick up an object, well, someone else can't because it's been picked up. Or if you kill a monster in a room, well, when someone else enters that room, that monster is dead. Now, I'd like to develop this on a modern platform, and then retro systems could connect to it. So, for example, I mean, it only uses terminal emulation as the input-output. So things like a VT100, you're emulating that. So an Amiga, for example, or a BBC, or even an actual terminal itself, you could connect that to it over the internet, and then you'd be able to play the game. Now, I have had a go at writing one of these before, and I got sort of partway along and then ran out of time, abandoned the project, and never went back. So I would like a chance to actually have the time to sit down and be able to do it. That would be absolutely lovely, and get to the end next time.
That sounds pretty cool, and I for one will be up for playing a game on that sort of system. Connecting a retro computer to a modern gaming framework will be quite the thing. Nice one, John. Looking forward to seeing where you take this. Dudley, who runs the wonderful channel Yesterzine, all about retro consoles, is up next.
I recently received a message from Keith Angel. And at first I of course wonder what is the percussionist from early 2000s world music band The Angel Brothers messaging me for about anything. But to be fair, Django's Caravan is a pretty decent track, so I read the message, and he was asking if I could write a program on any retro system, what would that be, and what would the program do? Well, I'm Dudley, from inexplicably semi-popular YouTube magazine Yesterzine, and if you know me at all, you'll know two things. One, that awful joke that was the entire first paragraph is about average form. And two, I'm going to be trying to do something for the Sega Master System, history's greatest console. Look, it says so itself. Every year, I cover the SMS Power Coding Competition, that every single year gives us multiple games you could put in a box and sell, and they'd be the equal of anything in the machine's library. And to prove it, several of them are. And as all people on the fringes of what might count as journalism if you squint, I am screamingly jealous of their talent and would love to join them by making something become flesh on the SMS. So what's missing on the machine? The easy answer before this year might have been Pac-Man, astonishingly a game the machine never got in period. But Lack of Track did it this year, and they did it perfectly. The bastard. It's a measure of the strength of that competition that it only finished 5th. So instead, I'm going to go for a game that, despite being released by the tiny local concern Epic Mega Games, is almost entirely forgotten. Traffic Department 2192 is a narrative shooter for PC. The PC game has a 50,000 word script, but is only 2.5 megabytes in size. So I reckon if you downgrade the graphics and sound for 8-bit, you've got a chance of at least doing one of its 3 episodes on each SMS cart. You'd need skill to pull off some of this action, but I think you could get very close, and given it rarely crowds the player, the sprite limit shouldn't be too much of an issue. Plus, and this is partly the point of this, anything that gets people to play this game is fine by me. It's been freeware a long time, so go and do that. If you need more convincing, I made a proper video about it a few years ago. It's a retro classic, and I'm afraid I don't see that Sega Master System port happening anytime soon. As much as I would absolutely love to hear that music piped through my beloved PSG.
You know, I never realised there was a rich and vibrant gaming scene today for the likes of the Sega Master System. Back in the day, the Master System, the Nintendo, all of those consoles kind of passed me by because I wasn't really a console person, preferring to stick with home computers instead. For me, they were a little bit more interesting. And to be fair, nothing's really changed on that front. But who knows? Maybe one day, Dudley, you'll get a top 5 game written and out there in the scene for everyone to play. You never know. Things can happen. Programming is fun after all. I love hearing what hardware YouTubers would come up with when it comes to writing software. And the next 2 videos are from people renowned for their incredibly successful hardware YouTube channels. First up is Andy from the channel Hack Build Restore.
So if I could write anything on any retro hardware, what would it be? This was a very difficult question for me because I am by trade a software engineer, and quite a lot of the programs that I wanted to write, I wrote on the hardware when it made sense. It was my favourite game when I was teens right through into probably 20s, was Repton on the BBC Micro. Particularly Repton 3 and Repton Infinity. Repton Infinity brought a whole new concept of having something that was a customizable game, right down to a level of scripting on an 8-bit machine. But one thing I really do regret not doing, or not even trying to do, porting it properly to either the early IBM PCs or the early 16-bit machines like the Atari ST and the Amiga. 286 machine with a VGA card, which what I had would have been perfectly capable of running a fairly good Repton clone. Many of the clones that were about were just so disappointing or required ridiculous hardware. I've come across some Repton ports that require higher specifications than running Doom. So I really think even today a good Amiga port of Repton Infinity or Repton 3 would be an awesome concept. Collect them all up puzzle game is something I still love playing today. So that's my answer to the question. I would port Repton Infinity to some of the 16-bit platforms like the Atari ST, Amiga and PC. In fact, why can't I do that? I'm going to do that. Da 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 da. Just get on your nerves eventually.
Repton was the BBC Micro for me. Back in the day when at college I used to sneak into the computer lab, which was kitted out with BBC Micros, and play Repton during my lunch breaks. I would love to see a decent Amiga port of Repton, but of course you'd have to leverage the AGA chipset. I mean, why wouldn't you? I really look forward to seeing this take shape, Andy. No pressure at all. Finally, we have the soft and cuddly Lee from the channel More Fun Making It, and Lee really wants to get into programming. Honest.
Hello, it's Lee here from the YouTube channels More Fun Making It and More Fun Fixing It. Yes, I am probably a masochist. Yawning Angel Keith in his charming jingly hat asked me to answer the following question. If I could write any program on any retro system, what system would it be and what would the program do? Well, I'm not really a software guy, and the closest I got to writing my own programs was back in the Sinclair Basic days on my ZX Spectrum. So it'll have to be on that system. But back then I was always interested in this nebulous concept called assembly, or the even more evocative machine code. This shrieked of the Matrix to my developing hormone-addled brain, years before the Matrix was even a thing. So machine code on a ZX Spectrum. But what would the program do? Play a game feels obvious, and productivity seems dull. I wonder if there's some noble task I could make the humble Specky achieve despite its advancing years. Something surprising and delightful to see running on 43-year-old hardware. Something nobody else has thought of doing before.
Nah, that sounds complicated. I'll do Space Invaders.
Lee, perhaps you could team up with Snorkers and come up with something quite unique between the two of you. It doesn't matter what the software was, the creation process would be amazing. To be fair though, Specky Basic was where I cut my programming teeth, and I still have a soft spot to it to this day, sometimes being masochistic and actually programming on my original rubber-keyed 48K Spectrum, because that's how I roll. But another Space Invaders game could work. Maybe you could make it a text adventure, or turn-based. I don't know, that could work actually. Wow, how about that from all those amazing YouTubers? Guys, thank you ever so much for doing those videos for me and for sharing them with me. I got such a kick out of watching them and hearing your answers to my question. Thank you for taking the time to submit the videos and answer my question and give it some thought. You've done some amazing work. Thank you. I really enjoyed it, and I really hope you, the viewer or subscriber to this channel, have enjoyed watching them as well. Great stuff indeed. If you're not already subscribed to those channels, links to their channels will be in the video description down below. And I thoroughly encourage you to go and check them out, because these are people putting some great stuff out there into the community, and their videos are really, really worth your time. But what about me? What would I code and on what system? Well, if you watch my videos already, this is a bit of a spoiler. It's going to be on Amos and it's going to be on an Amiga. Why would I want to do it on anything else? Could be tempted to do it on the Specky, but for me, it's going to be Amos because it's such an easy language to get to grips with and can do so much. But there again, I am incredibly biased. Ultimately, I'm pretty much happy coding anything. This, for me, is a creative outlet and I enjoy sharing what I do. It might not be perfect, but I enjoy doing it and I can't see myself stopping anytime soon. And with that said, thank you ever so much for watching and I'll see you on the next video.